Thank you, sir. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. It's nice to have you in the class today. Hope we have a good class. With your help, we will. Before we get into our class on harsh judgments and fault finding, I want to finish up a little bit of what we had talked about last week, which was ingratitude, because each one of these classes is designed for 100 minutes. And we get 45, don't we, at the most? So it's difficult, to be honest with you, but we have to just pick the high points and go on with it. But last week, as we were talking about this thing called being ungratitude, it hit me pretty hard, and I'm sure it hit some of you, but I wanted to finish up with an article that I found. Joanne actually found it and brought it to me, and it's from a newspaper called the Epic Times. Some of you may be familiar with that newspaper. Not a lot of newspapers around anymore, but that's one. Listen, just listen. Studies have shown that practicing gratitude makes for a better life. Positive emotions, better health, greater resilience, and stronger relationships all flow from practicing gratitude, according to Harvard Health Publishing. A grateful person and an ungrateful person might possess all of the same things on paper. A nice house, a happy family, good health. But grateful people are far more aware of all the good things they have, and as a result, they're able to actually enjoy life and its blessings to a greater degree. Moreover, gratitude has been recognized as one of the greatest virtues. Since ancient times, when Cicero wrote this, "I wish to be adorned with every virtue, yet there is nothing which I can esteem more highly than the being and appearing grateful. For this one virtue is not only the greatest, but is also the parent of all the other virtues." So being grateful is something we need to develop in our demeanor, in our life. And our class last week was great, but we didn't hardly get finished. There's more to this article. The next section of the article is the most important way to develop gratitude in your children, is to practice gratitude yourself. So we'll leave it right there on that one, but that was part of last week. This week we're going to be talking about overcoming harsh judgments and fault finding. Anytime you mention judgment to a non-Christian, there's one book comes to mind. What is it? Matthew chapter 7 and verse 1. All the world knows that verse. All of them. Why? What? Why does everybody like that verse more than repent and be baptized, every one of you, for the remission of your sins? Why?
Because if you can get away with sinning, and then nobody can judge them.
Okay, somebody else.
They don't want to be judged.
They don't want to be judged. Are they interpreting that verse correctly?
It's a little out of context.
Way out of context. Thank you, Nick. That's true. Hit the nail on the head. Well, if that verse is not interpreted properly, what does that mean? How does a Christian relate to that? How do we interpret that verse? We keep on reading, don't we? On down through verses 5 in Matthew chapter. And we learn judging is not prohibited in that verse. What is it? Go ahead, Carla. I saw you thinking about it. It's how you do it.
And it's whose standard you apply.
Whose authority are we going by here? Yeah. Yeah.
And it's what the purpose of it is.
Boy. Profound, Mr. Mike. Your purpose, your attitude, the reason you're doing it is important. It's critical, as a matter of fact. Well, you have a handout. It's just the first 2 pages that's in the book. But we're going to look at that for a few minutes. I'm going to read the introduction, and then Mike's going to start with that slide. The Bible still reads, "Judge not, that you be not judged. For with what judgment you judge, you shall be judged." Matthew 7, 1 and 2. And another one, "Speak not evil one of another, brethren. He that speaketh evil of his brother and judges his brother speaketh evil of the law and judgeth the law. But if thou judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a what? You're a judge of the law." Okay, here's where I get to make a personal testimony. And I get to make a personal confession, and you get to judge it. I don't have a clue what is judging. Sometimes judging is forbidden. You can be guilty of that. And God will not tolerate you. Sometimes it is encouraged. God will tolerate you for that kind of judgment. In the Bible, judging has a dual meaning. That blows me out of the water. I don't know when to do it this way. I don't know when to do it that way. I'm going to need your help. I do not understand this whole section in this book. So read it. Think about it and tell me your opinion. Maybe you can help me by the time we get through with the class. But in the Bible, judging has a dual meaning. It can refer to God's righteous discernment and ultimate judgment, which humans are forbidden to usurp, or it can mean the act of condemning others critically and hypocritically. There's 2 kinds. One God does. Which one is that? What? Righteous judgment. Well, what's the ultimate end of God's judgment? God can destroy you. He can put you in hell. He makes those judgments. I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to judge you in that way. Now, I might point you in another direction It can mean the act of condemning others critically and hypocritically. That right there is one I can't do. And somebody explain that to me. How do you judge somebody trying to condemn them? How do you judge somebody critically? Isn't all judgments critical and hypocritical or not? Talk.
Discernment is the difference. To just be a judgmental, condemning person is what's being forbidden.
Yes.
To recognize what a person has done is not necessarily wrong. So recognition is the big thing here.
It's important
It's important for us to judge if we recognize.
if we do.
If I recognize my child has done something wrong, I need to correct it.
Here's my problem. I'm jealous of you. I'm going to pick at you. I'm going to say, well, he don't know how to do that as well as I do. Or I'm going to criticize him and I'm going to try to bring him down if I'm feeling insecure, if I'm feeling
Well, it's an act of judging somebody for something and you're guilty of the same thing.
almost always. And here's another part I learned in this book, and we'll get to it, I'm sure. We're just on the first number 1 right now. Anytime you judge, anytime, all the time, every time you judge someone, you don't know all the facts, all the emotions, all the motives that person has. And that's 100% of the time. Be careful. Be careful. But then at another place, you got to go ahead and do it. Discernment. You got to, if it's a brother who's caught up in a fault, he's going to lose his soul. Except for maybe you. I've been there. I've seen it. Worst thing I've ever seen in my life was a brother or a sister, or both, who were caught up in sin. And all their brothers and sisters said nothing. Not an elder, not a deacon.
Okay, do you think you really helped them when you judged them though, and they kept doing it?
They wasn't judged. Nothing was said. And they are caught up in this sin that beyond a shadow of a doubt will...
But do you not think they already know it, if they are sinning?
Well, I'm sure they do, but they also know that their brothers and sisters are supposed to be there for them, coaching them and discerning them and pulling alongside them and lovingly guiding them back to righteousness. They know that too. It's not happening. Not happening.
There's a clear, in a situation like that, there's a clear instruction in the Bible what should happen. Okay.
What is it?
Well, it's it tells you, and I've actually been part of a congregation that has done this before. They've actually gone to the 2 people who were living in sin at that time and spoke with them, and then they went back from them one more time. They brought them before the congregation, and then and they still, well, it happened In one case, one of the people came back, and the relationship was split. The other case, at that point in time, they informed us that we should withdraw from them, and until the third time they found out what they were doing was wrong. So, I've been in other congregations, situation you're sitting in where that's happened as well, where, it's been ignored.
In our book, in our class, we're condemned and we can't judge others critically. But as we are learning now in this section, before we leave this slide, there is a judgment or discernment that we should make.
We judge people every day, okay? If you look at 1 Corinthians 5, and verse 10, 11, 12, and 13, it reads, "Yet not altogether for the fornicators of this world, or with the covetous, or extortioners, or with idolaters, for them must ye needs go out of the world. But now I write unto you, not to keep company, if any man is called a brother, being a fornicator, or covetous, or an idolater, or a railer, or a drunkard, or an extortioner, with such, and one not to eat." So, if these people are doing these things, you are not judging them. All you're doing is seeing that they have done something wrong. So the only judge is God. When it says judgment here, it's talking about condemning them. We're not condemning them.
Right.
And it goes on to read in 12, "For what have I do to judge them that are without? Do you not judge them that are within? But them that are without, God judges. Therefore put away from among yourselves that wicked person." So if someone is doing those things, it seems obvious to me that we should put that person, we should distance ourselves from that person. Should we go to them and talk to them about it? Sure. You're absolutely right. That should happen.
You go first.
We're not condemning that person. God does that. All we're doing is discerning, is what I understand discerning, or judging. When I see something wrong, it's not judging, that's what I see. There's a difference between the two, I think.
Yes, sir. Couldn't said it better myself. What happens when you don't do that?
It's what happened in, if you go to a person and their sin is they change their ways, then you've saved someone. If you don't go to a person that you know sin, that sin could be on you. Okay? Because you have not went to them.
And then others consider that as okay for me to do too.
Yep.
Follow suit,
Yes, sir. Yes.
It's also about authority.
Amber?
It's about authority. So the Lord has the authority to judge someone because He is perfect. But when we go to someone, we have to be like, no sin is greater than any other sin. I'm a sinner too, but I know you love the Lord. And so the Lord is going to judge this. And then He's lovingly lead them back towards what's right. But I don't have the authority to judge someone for their sin because I've sinned just as much. And my sin laid on the cross just as much.
Good. We can't destroy anyone. We can't harm anyone. But we can try to keep them from harming themselves sometimes, some way, somehow. Y'all are helping me a lot. Thank you.
Well, there's also protection of the church. I think that's what Bert was reading. That's an obligation we have to protect the church's body, and
Okay. There's quite a bit in this section, and there's this word. I'm going to need somebody to help me define this word. All you school teachers, wake up. This word is, and down at the bottom of your handout, it says now let me read the whole thing. It says here that this fella, Guy N. Woods, says that the judging condemned is to impute unworthy motives to others, to put the worst possible interpretation on their works and actions, and we've kind of talked about that this morning. We're jealous. Forbidden here is also in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 7:1. All are, you see that word? How do you say it? Censorious? Shelley, what in the world does that mean?
It just means that, well, it comes from the word censor, like you're censoring something. So what he's saying there, that you are censoring or condemning without all the facts.
All censorious judgments exercised without sufficient information by people who are without right to do so.
Yeah, so in other words, like, let's say I see you out at a restaurant and there's a glass of wine sitting at your table and you're sitting there alone. Well, what I do is I say, well, Jim's a drunk. What I don't know is that you're eating dinner with somebody and they're in the restroom. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah?
We're very quick to look at situations and jump to the worst possible interpretation instead of, this is going to be shocking, talking to the person about what you saw.
Okay.
And I think that's very human instinct, is we see it, we judge it, we condemn it, and then we spread it usually.
But is that censorious thing always designed for destruction, slander, and defamation of character?
Yeah, I mean, why else would I?
That's why it's wrong, isn't it?
Why else would I assume you're a drunk?
Yeah.
Why would I not talk to you
Yeah.
about it?
Okay? Good. Thank you. Thus, as well as from an observance of the context in Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 through 6, the kind of judging forbidden by the Lord is harsh, hasty, unfounded, there's that word, censorious, hypocritical, uncharitable, malicious, slanderous, ill-natured judgment.
I don't know how many remember back in the early 80s, the church in Collinsville, Oklahoma was sued because they withdrew fellowship from a woman who was,
I can almost remember her name. Was that Madeline? What was it? Marion.
but when it went to court, 7-1 was the main defense that her lawyer used, saying we were judging her because we kicked her out of the church
Yeah.
because of her sin. And so she sued. That was the main bearing on everything. Was you're judging her and condemning her because she was just living her life. That's the way it went.
Okay. Well, before we leave this slide, Michael, we'll go to the next one in a moment, but to understand the meaning of this word Shelley explained to us, it refers to a tendency to criticize or find fault with others. It often implies a harsh and severe judgment of someone's actions or character. This trait can manifest in both personal relationships and public discourse. Censorious individuals may express their opinions openly or through subtle remarks. Anybody guilty? And last one, the term is often associated with moral and ethical evaluations of behavior. So we're right on target with Shelley here. Censorious can lead to negative social dynamics and conflict. Yeah. Okay. Number.
Read the rest of his sentence following that censorious judgment. Turn the page there, and I think
Right.
If that's the purpose of that judgment,
Yes. Ill-natured.
it's wrong.
It's wrong. I'm out to get you. I'm glad I saw a glass of wine on your table now. I'll go tell others, and they'll think less of you. And that was my motive, wasn't it? Let's move on. Mike, number 2. What causes judging and mote hunting? Any truth in that slide? Judas is an example. He said he was concerned for the poor when Judas accused Mary of wastefulness when he himself had been stealing from the bag. An effort to justify one's own sinful life causes someone to be harshly judging someone else. Number 3, an intent to build up oneself and tear down another. What good does that do?
I think it can say like, well, maybe I just sinned a little, but your sin is much greater than mine. So I can judge you because yours is greater than mine.
Maybe that can help you justify your own sin.
Yeah.
I could say, I can't believe Bill drinks in public. I only drink and cry.
Yeah. It could be. I tried that drinking one time. Made me dizzy. Had to give it up.
I thought you were dizzy all.
I am now, but I ain't even drinking. Little did I know where I was headed. And finally, number 4. That'll cause you to judge. What is envy? Well, you're full of it.
Wanting something that somebody else has.
Or hoping that it breaks down and they can't have it no more. Hatred. That's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? We will judge those whom we hate. Okay. An effort to justify one's own sinful and console that's mainly, I think, why we judge others. Our own conscience is bothering us. So by judging you, I can ease my conscience a little bit. Makes me a little less despicable. So,
Before we leave, I know that everybody in their lives has something or somebody that you wish could change. And I think, no matter what you said to them or say to them, there may not be a change. The only thing I think that you can do is be an example for them and not ever say bad words around them, no matter what they say to you. And I can't see judging this person because I don't know what the heart is and I don't know what God's judgment would be. But I can be an example for them.
good.
And that's all I know to do.
Okay.
I think we always say, well, they're worse, they do something worse than I do, so I'm okay.
Yeah.
So I don't have to change till they do.
So we're basing our standard on the lowest possible denominator.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing it on our standard, not the standard of Christ. You can't change his standard, which is perfection. And the fact that
Yes.
But when we start measuring against a human standard, what my dad always said was, I'm cruddy, but I'm not as cruddy as you.
Yeah.
And that's a fallacy.
Back here.
This issue is why Christians are called hypocrites by the world, by the way, is they watch us judge everybody else's sin and never deal with ours.
Yeah.
And so we just have to be, well, like Jesus says, you don't go to someone else till you've examined yourself. And I think the point he's making there is, what are your motives? Are these your motives? Then you don't need to go talk to anybody.
Right.
If your motive is legit, I love you,
Oh, yes.
and I care about you,
Yeah.
and I see a path that you're on that's not what you're supposed to be on as a follower of Christ. Now you have a motive in humility to go to them and say, hey, I struggled with this too. Or hey, I struggle with this. Could you hold me accountable and I'll hold you accountable?
Right.
It's a whole different perspective than coming at someone to say, well, you're just horrible, and here's all the reasons why.
Okay. Thank you, Shelley. Donna? Talk loud.
The only way that we know the mind of God is through His Word. So the Word is where we look for truth and for what He wants of us and what He expects of us.
Right.
He expects different of His children, obviously, than He does the world. We'd like Him to be His children. But as His children, we have to go by the Word and see what He has to say about it. Evil is evil, so we can't ignore that.
Right.
So, but we do have to go, and of course, look at Jesus, the love that Jesus showed in His life, and use those things to address whatever the problem might be.
Okay.
He had His Word to do that. Instead of sit down with people and show them that.
There's a statement here in your handout. It's from 2 Corinthians 10 and 12. It says, but we cannot whitewash ourselves while blackening others. Judging others is a dangerous thing, not so much because you make mistakes about them, but because you may be revealing the truth about yourself. Indeed, we judge in others that of which we ourselves are guilty. Romans 2 and 1. Yeah, you're quick to judge somebody else for something that you're doing yourself. Good. Most of the time when we do this thing from envy and hatred, envy seeks to get rid of the victim. Remember Saul seeking to kill David? In the scriptures, that was because of envy. And did not Haman build the gallows for Mordecai? And who got hung on it? Haman did. This envy seeks to do by hurting, wounding, and stabbing with unfounded, harsh, censorious, malicious, uncharitable, and critical judgments. Okay, this next section will be the harsh judge and mote hunter. Number 3. Yeah. This says that guy, the harsh judge, and the mote hunter is worse than the one he's judging. You shouldn't ought to do that, I guess. Try to judge somebody when, look, you're worse. That's what that scripture means, I believe. That's pretty straightforward to me. Remember that when you point the finger of judgment at another, you have 3 others pointing back at yourself. 2, the thumb is pointed downward, signifying from which direction the spirit of judging comes. So, not good. The critic or censorious judge has a beam in his eye. whereas his victim has a moat. And I looked that word up too. Shelley don't have to tell us about that. It's a stick or timber would be the word that means the beam would be used like in a floor joist or a ceiling rafter. Now go judge somebody with that sticking out of your eye. Yeah, that's what it's like. And the word moat means a dry stalk or twig, a straw maybe, or chaff, or a speck or a splinter in your victim's eye. So it says that so many times we are worse than the ones we're judging, kind of thing. Makes us a hypocrite. Does a lot of things for us we don't like. The Pharisees condemned Jesus for healing on the Sabbath, and they failed to render proper assistance to their parents. If you remember, they would give a gift instead of take care of their parents. They thought they were right and others was wrong. The censorious judge is called a hypocrite. Matthew 7:5. Why? Well, seeing a fault in the life, a person he envies or dislikes, he will condemn. If he see a fault in someone you dislike, like we were talking about, you will condemn them. Let's move along to the next one, Mike, number 4. Why is it so unjust to judge others? Well, number 1, we almost never fully know all the facts. I think that's probably really true. Number 2, it's almost impossible to be impartial. Is that a problem? What does that mean?
I've already formed my opinion before I even judge. I don't like you, so you're bad.
And I'm going to help you be bad. I'm going to help others see that you're bad. But it's almost impossible to be impartial when you judge someone.
And sometimes it's not the person, sometimes it's the sin they're caught up in. Maybe that specific sin is really detestable to us. So people who engage in it, we're more harsh to judge. I've seen that happen too.
Yeah.
It's not the person, it's the sin that they're caught up in.
Yeah. Need to stay out of them places, kind of thing. Not everything we condemn in others is actually sin. Sometimes I thought they were sinning and they wasn't. Most of the time, that may be true. Now, I failed to start the class in this vein. Number 1 is we're only talking about judging our brothers and our sisters. True or false? True. Why? But who judges those outside the church? Not you and not me. I cannot judge those outside the church. I think a lot of times that gets overlooked. I really do. Especially from a Christian's perspective, I think most of the time we just say, well, it's so complicated or it's so hard to do, or I'm just not going to do it, not judge at all.
What about Proverbs, choose your friends wisely, so you have to judge
Be what? It would be what?
Choose your friends wisely. So if they're outside the church,
Yeah.
you will be judging them to be your friend or not.
Yeah. Judge wisely. Be careful who you run with. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about, you said, this only applies to our brothers and sisters in Christ, judging. So people outside the church, choosing your friends, people outside the church, you're judging them whether they should be your friend or not.
Okay.
There's a lot of, judgment is a word that's used over a lot of different levels
Yeah.
and different nuances. And to recognize a sin is not necessarily to judge.
Yeah. You're right.
So what if we get called for jury duty?
You get called for jury duty?
What if we do? Does this mean we have to go judge somebody even though we may?
Well, I don't know, Mike. All I can do is tell you what I do. I say, I know that guy's guilty.
I had a guy quote Matthew 7:1 one time.
Yeah.
And they said he dismissed.
Yeah.
And I thought, why didn't I think of that?
Well, you know, the judge, the trial was coming up in a couple of weeks, and they were trying to get a jury selected and get them seated and get a pool. And they had this old lady in the pool, and they brought her up there and set her there. And this attorney says, have you got any preconceived notions about this trial? She says, well, I sure do. Said, what is it? Said, well, he's guilty. Said, well, ma'am, how do you know that? Said, well, anybody can tell by looking at him. He'd do anything. He said, ma'am, that's the district attorney. She was right. We see only the outward man, not the inward man. I think that's a big one. I think that's a big one right there. Next slide, please. Here's the remedy for harsh judging and for fault finding. Love. Love covers a multitude of sins. If you love me, you will let me be judged by you very softly, very tenderly, very lovingly. I'll almost enjoy it. That's love. And I mean true love. I think that works. Judging can be despicable, true or false. Practice the golden rule will help, true or false. What about self-examination? What about look for the good in others and asking God to help you? Consider the hurt you do if you do it wrong. Boy, that scares a lot of us away from judging, don't it? The victim is your brother. Walk a mile in his shoes before you judge him. Your judgments are often wrong, by the way. Consider what judging will do to you before you do it. Next slide, please. We're about out of time, ain't we? That slide speaks for itself. You ever been that person? Have you ever treated that person that way? Have y'all ever ganged up on somebody? Love will cure that. Love always always is slow to expose, always eager to believe the best, always hopeful, and always patient. That's the way I want to be judged. That's the way I want to be treated. Love covers a multitude of sins. The faults of others will appear thick if your love for them is thin. That's pretty good, isn't it? Genuine brotherly love, 'tis gentle, delicate, and kind. To faults, compassionate or blind. Did the bell ring? The last one rung? Not yet. We got a big crowd in the forum.
I've been thinking, the book was talking about when you point at somebody, the thumb is pointing down where judgment comes from, and it made me think Satan, the word Satan in Hebrew literally means accuser. And so
Right.
when we judge, when we accuse, we are partnering with Satan himself, because that's what he does.
Right.
And so we just need to be really careful that we're not joining with forces of evil instead of bringing people to Christ, I guess.
Thank you, Shelley. The last slide.
Maybe if I'm doing this, I got 3 fingers pointing back.
Yeah, that's right. We will be judged with the same judgment we render. We don't want that.